Next year, when you go to 7th grade, you're going to need to know how to multiply, divide, add, and subtract with positive and negative numbers. So the purpose of this short video is to teach you how to multiply and divide integers or positive and negative numbers. I gave you a handout, and we're going to talk about that drawing that's on your handout at the top, and then we're going to go through 4 examples, and then you will do the 4 practice problems on your own at the bottom. There's a very simple, easy shortcut that you can use when you are multiplying and dividing with integers. Now, this will not work with addition and subtraction. We'll talk about those operations later. But on your handout, you see a drawing, and I have named it a Peace Baby. I named it a baby because it looks like it has 2 eyes and a pacifier in its mouth. And I call it a Peace Baby because it looks like the peace symbol. We're going to use it to help us determine whether the answers to these problems would either be positive or negative. So let's start by looking at example number 1 on your handout. This problem, when you see -3 parentheses 4, you should know by now that that is another way to indicate multiplication. So in example 1, we are multiplying -3 times -4. So here's what we're going to do. Because that 3 is a negative, I am going to cover up the negative sign in my Peace Baby. So all I want you to do is just hold one of your fingers over that negative sign because 3 is a -3. Then we're multiplying that by 4, and that is a +4. So using your Peace Baby, I want you to cover up that positive symbol. Just put your finger over that positive symbol because we are multiplying a -3 times a +4. So once you cover up the negative and the positive, it shows you that your answer is going to be a negative. The symbol in the Peace Baby that you did not cover up is a negative. So my answer would be negative, and all I simply do is multiply 3 times 4, and I get -12. So -3 times +4 is -12. Okay, let's go on to the second example. Number 2, we are dividing a +10 divided by a -2. Now you also may see that division problem written in fraction form. Remember that fraction bar means to divide. So this means 10 divided by -2. You could see it written both of these ways. Okay, because 10 is a positive number, use your Peace Baby and cover up that positive sign. Just hold your finger over it. And we are dividing this positive number by a -2, so with your other finger, cover up one of the negative symbols on your Peace Baby, and what is showing, what is left, is a negative, and we simply do 10 divided by 2, and we get 5. So +10 divided by -2 is a -5. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. A negative multiplied by a positive is a negative. Okay, let's go on to example number 3. This time we are multiplying a -6 times a -5. So in our Peace Baby, we need to cover up both of the negative signs because this time we are multiplying 2 negatives. And if you'll cover those up, and what is showing is a positive. And then 6 times 5 is 30. Therefore, -6 times -5 is +30. If you don't want to put that positive symbol there, you don't have to. If you write just 30, that is understood that it is a positive number. Okay? Now let's use our Peace Baby to solve number 4. Number 4 is read -8 divided by -4, and it can also be written using the fraction bar. So this time we're dividing a negative, so cover up one of the negatives in your Peace Baby, by a negative, cover up the other negative, and you are left with a positive, and then 8 divided by 4 is 2. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, just like a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, we've gone through these 4 examples together, so now I would like for you to pause the video and solve, just pause it, and I want you to solve the 4 practice problems on your own right now. Pause the video and do the 4 practice problems. Now that you have had time to do your practice problems, you're going to check your answers. So practice problem number 1, you are multiplying 7, positive 7 times negative 4, and your answer should be negative 28. If you did not get negative 28, you're going to use your Peace Baby and go back through it. We're multiplying a positive times a negative, which means our answer will be negative, and 7 times 4 is 28. So you should have gotten negative 28. Okay, let's check your answer to practice problem number 2. In number 2, you're taking a negative and dividing it by a positive, so your answer will be negative, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. If you missed it, go back and look at your Peace Baby. You should have covered up the positive and a negative, which leaves you with a negative. Okay, number 3, this time you're multiplying a negative times a negative, so you should get a positive, and 9 times 8 is 72. You could have also written just 72. If you cover up both negatives in your Peace Baby, you're left with a positive, which tells me my answer should be positive. And the last problem is a negative divided by a negative. It could also be written negative 40 over negative 2. If you cover up both negative signs in your Peace Baby, the positive sign is showing, and 40 divided by 2 is 20. So your answer is positive 20 or 20. Now, this peace sign or Peace Baby, you're just going to have to memorize it when you're multiplying and dividing with integers. Hopefully you got all 4 of those correct. And now that you're finished with your handout, you may put it in your pocket folder. Do not throw it away because we will refer to it later on.